Welcome to Made in Walker, a podcast that connects you to the people, the stories, and the ideas shaping our community. From local innovators to everyday change makers, we're diving deep into what makes Walker a great place to live, work, and grow. Here's your host, Nicole DiDonato.
We're sitting down today with Scott Zokoe of the Zokoe Team 5-Star Real Estate. They are local experts with deep ties to Walker and the West Michigan community's dynamic real estate market. So whether you're a longtime resident, maybe looking to relocate, or a local business, we hope to give you some insight into the real estate market here in your own backyard. Scott, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's an interesting time in the real estate market, so I think this is a great time for us to get on and kind of talk about what things are happening. There's been a lot in the media about interest rates and home prices and the economy as a whole. So I think we can kind of give people a quick little snippet of what's happening and maybe help them in their decision, because I don't want to be the real estate agent who just says now's the best time to sell or buy. It's always about what's going on in your family and your story. So I want to help people kind of guide them to the right decision, not just the decision that makes the most sense.
Yeah, you're the best person for it. So, growing up in the area and now working in the area, what has that been like with Walker?
Yeah. So I born and raised in this area and just love it. I think, our business is built on referrals. And so it's pretty important to get to know the community you're in, to do business at the businesses that you're working in and see them. You go to the same restaurant, whether it's Walker Roadhouse, Double Dip Depot, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like you get to be there over and over, and you get to know the people and know the people who own the businesses. I've had the opportunity to be involved with the city of Walker and the DDA and the Walker Chamber. I think it's a really exciting place to be, as I grew up here, and so there's been a lot of change. And some people are adverse to change, and but I think it's an exciting thing for the community. It's exciting to see new developments. It's exciting to see new libraries. Whatever those things are, I don't think you ever want to be a stagnant community. And Walker is really good at saying, hey, we have an opportunity here. Let's use it. And so, for me, it's the people. It's like, I think that's the easy answer, right? But it's also the right answer, because people here love where they're at. They've been, sometimes they go and list a house. It's been in the family for 60, 70 years. It's like people want to be here. They want to stay here. You see a lot of growth from outside of, different states coming in. And so obviously we're doing something right. But I think it's when you see that grandma who's been in the same house for 80 years, it's like, yeah, she loves it here. She loves her neighbors. The neighbors care about her. And so it's just a really cool sense of community. And I think we see that, people want to be here, and we're seeing that again, kind of across the country. People are moving here. So
yes, yeah. And kind of starting with people want to be here. How has the market really kind of changed pretty much, especially in this year, compared to other communities around West Michigan?
Yeah, that's a good question. So maybe macro-wise, for the last 4 years or since, COVID kind of kicked in, and interest rates were near zero. All right. So money was essentially free. And so everyone and their mother wanted to buy a house. It was a stressful process. There was 30 offers on every house. And you felt like you had to give your right kidney just to be able to buy one. Great for sellers, right? It was a great time to sell. And it was a good time to buy because interest rates were low and your payments were lower. So that's awesome. Unfortunately, that was artificially elevated. That wasn't a real interest rate and borrowing environment. So I think it's given macro-wise sellers maybe this illusion that every time they sell, that's going to happen. Sure. And now we've seen some changes in the last year, and interest rates have obviously risen pretty significantly over the last couple of years here. We have seen them come down a little bit, but that has led to buyers maybe feeling like, hey, wait a minute, I've heard the interest rates are up and that things are sitting a little bit longer. And sellers maybe feeling like, well, wait a minute, for the last 4 years, all I've heard about is, hey, I'm going to get whatever I want, multiple offers, blah, blah, blah. So we're seeing a little bit of a learning here in the market that people are like, maybe you can't just price it wherever you want it to price and it's going to sell, because that's not the case anymore. Days on market have gone up. We're seeing things take a little bit longer to sell. Now, all that being said, it's still definitely a seller's market. And I think the problem is we've seen it go from like crazy to a little bit more normal, but even that normal is still very much out of whack with what a normal market is. I think if I look at our month supply for September of 2025, we're 1.76 months. So a normal market is 6 months. So still very much a seller's market. Things are selling in 19 days on average. And if you go back to March, they were selling in 7 days. So that's the hard part, right? We talk about a normal market and it's like 19 days feels like a lot compared to 7, but it's still pretty darn good if you're sold within 3 weeks and you're getting 99.8% of your purchase price. So I think it's an interesting time. It's just more that I think we've had expectations on one end for both parties. And so we're seeing them kind of learn that, hey, those things aren't in the case anymore and they are changing. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that, it's not a good time to buy or sell. It just depends on, it makes you think a little bit longer about that decision, and make sure you're making the right decision for you and your family. I always tell people the best time to buy a house was 10 years ago. I should have bought all of them. That's the best time. The next best time is when it makes sense for your family. People are saying, well, now is a good time because there's less. I'm like, wait till it makes sense for your family and financially. You don't want to buy a house and then have the furnace go out and now you can't afford to put the furnace in. Then you might as well be renting, right? So we don't rush people into home ownership until you're ready, because it's not, there's going to be more than just the mortgage payment. You're going to have upkeep, you're going to have maintenance, you're going to have things to do to a house. If you're not ready for that, just rent. I don't want to be the realtor screaming to buy. I want you to buy because you want to own a home and you want to change the paint colors and you want to add and you want to make it your own and make it home, not just buy a house because that's what your mom and dad told you to do. So
it's very comforting to hear. It's a stressful process for both sides. So that's great to hear that, you guys aren't, pressuring folks into doing that. It is just what is best for your personal family. Looking into 2026, what are you seeing as far as trends?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I talked about the interest rates, they have gone up, right? We saw them hit almost 8. Now they're like low 6s. So they have come down off their highs, and we do think that trend will continue into the mid 5s to maybe low 5s by the end of next year, which, for people who bought at 7% or 8%, you are going to see people say, like, okay, one, we may need to refinance, right, to get into a lower interest rate. And 2, if you get into the 5s, those people who have the 3% interest rates, they may be able to stomach 3 to a 5 easier than 3 to a 7 or an 8. So I think we'll see that open up some inventory. So a lot of sellers kind of have these golden handcuffs we talked about. I have it personally too. I have a low interest rate. My family and I love our house, but if interest rates were 2%, we might have moved. But now we're kind of trapped in these low interest rates. And so at 3%, you can kind of stomach the 5s, right? It doesn't seem so aggressive, where 3 to a 7, 3 to an 8 is like, oof, I'm not touching that. So I think that is what we'll see happen in next year. We're hoping that it brings the right inventory. Walker is a fast growing place. There's lots of new developments going in that Walker is busy working on. And so we're seeing a lot of growth in this area. So we still don't have enough homes. Again, we're looking at 1.7 months of supply. We need more houses. And the city's been great about addressing that. And so we're hoping that with these lower interest rates, home sellers feel comfortable about getting off of that low rate and maybe moving into the house that's actually fit for their family, whether it's too big or too small. And they feel comfortable with that move and can afford it, and it makes sense for them financially. So we're hoping that levels out the market even more and brings a healthy amount of supply, and also brings those buyers who have been skittish off the high rates, brings them back in. Because it's not fun for a house to sit for a long time, and it also wasn't fun when there was 30 offers and buyers felt so defeated. So a healthy market is just a little bit more of an even back and forth, and I'm hoping that's what it means for 2026. More affordability, more options, and sellers not having to, we don't want them sitting for a long time either. So pricing and staging, all those things are really important.
Yes, of course. If you are, looking to, what are some of the best, ways to prep a home to make sure that you're getting the most for it, but, also it's good for the next person.
Yeah, curb appeal is everything, right? Because we drive up and the first thing we see, if it's run down and the hedges are overgrown and the grass is long, and it's like, ooh, all right, you can walk into the house, be great, but you're going to have this kind of we judge things quickly. And so I always say, start outside, make it look nice, fresh, clean. It doesn't need to be fancy, but just make sure it's clean and fresh and it looks good. So that when you pull into that driveway, you think, oh, this is a nice house. Now you go inside, you don't want it to obviously smell like dogs or cats or animals, smokers, any of those things. You want to kind of eliminate odors whenever you can. Again, that's the first thing we're going to feel. You're going to walk in and like, oop, they got dogs, and I love dogs and I get it, but we want to kind of keep Fido, not so much for the new buyers, right? Because not everyone loves dogs, and the new buyers, we don't need to know if they love dogs or not. They probably do. A lot of people do love dogs, but not everyone loves the smell of dogs. So I always tell people, get it fresh, get it clean. And then if you're looking to do projects, kitchen and baths. I mean, those are always going to be your highest return. People spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and they entertain in the kitchen. And, it's a good place to, whether that's a full kitchen remodel or just update it with some, paint and maybe some backsplash and just kind of refresh it a little bit, because that's what, that's where people spend a lot of their times. And bathrooms, same thing. People love an updated bathroom. I always tell people don't remodel it past what your neighborhood is, So if you're in a $300,000, kind of starter home neighborhood, don't put in the fanciest tile unless you want to live there forever. And that's fine. I tell people throw ROI out the window. If this is your forever house and this is what you want, well, life's too short. Do what you want. But if you're thinking about when you're going to go to sell this thing, well, let's do it in a smart way. You don't need the fancy stuff. Buyers just want a clean, fresh bathroom. They don't need the fancy tile and, the really expensive vanity. Just put a nice vanity in, a new tile, and make it look nice, but you don't need to, break the bank to make it worth it in terms of ROI.
Yeah, that's a great point there. Now, as far as businesses, we have a lot of space available, maybe some for like rent or things like that.
Yeah.
What are you seeing as far as with that kind of demographic?
Yeah. Well, we're seeing people rent longer than ever before, right? The average age, last time I heard, was up to like 36 or 38 is the first time home buyer. So you're seeing those people rent a lot longer. And I think, again, Walker's done a great job addressing that. If you look at Standale, there's a lot more rental options. And again, that's always met with mixed emotions. But people need to understand that we just talked about that stat. People are renting until they're 36 or 37 or 38 years old. So there's the first time home buyers moved up, and which means we need more places for rent. And if we want to be a city in an area that is full of growth and excitement and new businesses, and we need the people here. And so we need rentals, right? They're all connected. And that's not always an easy thing to talk about because people love old Standale or love when, it was the old drive-in movie theater. I'm like, I do too, I wasn't alive, but you know what I mean? It's like, I love the nostalgia too. But I also love Walker and I want to share it with other people. And so if that means we need a few more spots for people to be able to rent, that's what we have to do. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's great to see those options available. And people can get to know Walker, whether it's Meyer or Bissell, or we have some big corporations here that bring in talent from outside of just our area. So not everyone's familiar with the area. So renting is a great spot to say, okay, we're going to start here. It's close to work and it's close to everything. And then we can go find what neighborhood we want to be in, what specific area we want to live in. It just gives people a time to kind of adjust and not be so locked into a house. I can't imagine moving to a new city for a job and just buying a house. I mean, people do it, and you got to have a good real estate agent to help with that. Yeah. They know the area, but it's got to be stressful, because you don't know the commute, you don't know the restaurants. So I tell people, come rent for a little bit, just figure it out, go try a bunch of things, and make sure you like it in the specific area that you're looking before you buy. So, I think as we talk about businesses and new corporations and new growth in the job market, rentals is a very important part of that, because that's what people need. It's harder to buy a house right away. So, hey, we have something to rent. We can learn about, this new development, whatever the project is. There's some exciting ones in that, you guys are working on. And so that's what we need. We need more options for those people.
And you were speaking about development. One of them is actually Tom and Woods, that you guys are the main listing agents for that. That's just south of Standale on Cummings there. Another option, again, condos for folks to look to kind of live near the city. Yeah. Also have some nice greenery and space near them. So
yeah, absolutely. Great development. The developers are just world-class builders. We've worked with other builders, and these guys are just top of the line. They do things right. They built them the way you'd want your house to be built. And it is exciting to, have these condos that are built this way. in there, but they're tucked away, right? It's like you drive off Cummings and you pull in and like you kind of forget you're in almost the middle of Standale. So yeah, it's just another example of, that's obviously those are for purchase, but it's just another option of, hey, here's some flexible living space. It's not all cookie cutter houses, because not everyone wants to live in a neighborhood. The condo offers a different solution for people who don't want a yard to take care of, and zero entry. So as you're aging, it's better for them. And there's options available for people, and that's what I think is cool about Walker in this area of growth that we're seeing in Grand Rapids. As Grand Rapids grows, we're going to grow, right? Because people are going to be pushed out of affordability and they're going to move into our communities. And so we have a spot for them, whether that's the Vista 45 projects, whether that's Tallman Woods, whether that's, obviously single family houses. But we have options available for people who want to move into this area. And I think that's really exciting.
Scott, great information. And where can folks find for information for you if they are looking for a realtor possibly?
Absolutely. Yeah. Our website is zokoteam.com. So that's Zokoe team.com. Scott Zokoe, that's obviously who I am. We're part of the Zokoe team at 5 Star Real Estate. So you can look us up on Instagram, Facebook, website, whatever works best.
Yeah, so. Love it. It's a small business, family-owned business. We love seeing you guys here. Thank you for this great insight, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate you.
And we thank you for tuning in as well.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Made in Walker podcast. If you have comments or questions about this podcast, or if you have suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Please drop us an email at podcast@walker.city. Made in Walker is the official podcast of the city of Walker, Michigan. You can find Made in Walker wherever you get your podcasts.